thought that today we could make a little breakfast surprise for my household, aka me and my husband. Today I'm going to be making our favorite biscuits. These are just very simple drop biscuits. There are some substitutions that you can make, and I'll leave that down in the description bar, but today I'm going to show you just exactly what I like to do to make our perfect drop biscuit. Hopefully you'll have the same ingredients and you can follow through and have the same results and the amazing, delicious, nutritional benefits of these little simple drop biscuits. This is a recipe that only makes 4 biscuits. Like I said, we have a very small household, so I don't really need 12 biscuits laying around, but feel free to double this recipe if you need. So without further ado, let's get into the recipe. So I'm going to use 1/4 cup of milk, and to that I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, and this is going to help us create kind of like a buttermilk kind of substitute. This just setting off to the side, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So starting out with some spelt flour. I usually would recommend buying a sprouted spelt flour. It's easier to digest, and if you're like me, I personally don't eat a lot of gluten, very small amounts of it. I eat a lot of whole foods, which means I don't eat a lot of flour-based pantry items, but I find that in small amounts, it doesn't bother me. So, spelt flour, I'm using roughly 3/4 cup, and then I'm going in brown rice flour, and we're gonna do about 1/4 cup of that. And I spilled it off the counter. Oops. I do this just because I find it kind of lightens up the biscuit a little bit, and I've used all spelt flour. It does come out fine, but sometimes it can be a little dense. So I like to kind of break it up with just a little bit of brown rice flour. So I'm doing a cup of flour, and then I'm going in with 1 teaspoon of baking powder. I like to buy the aluminum-free baking powder, so you avoid that weird aftertaste. Our salt. I'm gonna do a heaping 1/2 teaspoon because I like things salty. Okay, so now that we have our dry ingredients, I'm now going to take our wet ingredient, 1/4 cup of applesauce. All right, now I'm gonna add a little bit of honey. You do not have to add honey, but I think it adds a nice little sweetness. A teaspoon, maybe a little less, but again, not necessary, but it is really good. Milk, you can see it starts to get a little curdled and gross looking. That's when you know it's ready, and we're going to add that in. A wooden spoon is my choice. I'm just going to keep folding it in, mixing everything around. It's looking a little dry, and this is okay. We're just going to dismount our rings really quick. I'm just going to add a little bit more milk, just maybe a tablespoon, if that. And this just depends each time, I swear, each time I make it, it's different. So you just want it to be a little bit white. You don't want it to be dry, you don't want to be too stringy. And then at this point, I'm gonna take my hand and just, see that it's pretty wet. That's okay. Our ball of dough, I'm just gonna put a little bit of flour down. I'm just going to push it out. You don't want to work it too much, and you don't want it to be too dry. Just kind of want to flatten it out just a little bit. And then cut it into 4 biscuits. At this point you can shape them up a little bit more. parchment lined pan here. Drop it down there. But remember, they are drop biscuits. They're not really meant to be cute. I like to dust them with just a little bit of flour on top. Just because I think it looks pretty that way. Drop biscuits are ready. They're kind of distance apart, but not really. So don't worry too much about it. Now they're gonna go in the oven at 375. I'm gonna clean up. So satisfying about not only making your own bread and then enjoying it, that for me makes the experience so much more delicious. And you know, I personally, as I mentioned before, I don't eat a lot of bread. Once a week or every other week, I really do enjoy just making these drop biscuits for my little family, and I tell you what, they are so satisfying, and I look forward to them every Sunday. And hopefully you can enjoy this recipe as well, and know that baking your own bread doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be filled with questionable ingredients. You can use really high quality, inexpensive things and come out with seriously a delicious result. So I love bread. All right. I hope that you're having a really great week, and feel free to leave a comment of any future videos you'd like me to make. I have a lot of ideas, but of course I love hearing from you, and I can kind of push one to the forefront if there's something you have in mind. But other than that, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm gonna go wake up the rest of the household, aka my husband and the dog.